Dylan Larkin asked the Detroit Red Wings for a trade months ago, and he still hasn't left. The captain handed his front office a list of 4 teams he'd approve a move to. General manager Steve Yzerman stepped down from his post. And through all of it, Larkin is still skating in a Red Wings jersey with no resolution in sight. Let's start from the beginning, because this situation didn't come out of nowhere. Larkin requested a trade out of Detroit earlier this offseason after growing frustrated with the direction of the team under Yzerman. He's the franchise's captain, a homegrown player, and someone who signed an 8-year extension worth $69.6 million back in 2023. That deal runs all the way through the 2030-31 season, and it came with a full no-trade clause, meaning nothing happens to Larkin unless he personally approves it. He gave the front office a short list of teams he'd accept a move to. Originally, it was 3 destinations, later expanded to 4. The Minnesota Wild, the Vegas Golden Knights, and the Florida Panthers, with the Dallas Stars added afterward, though reporting on whether that 4th team is actually still on the list has been mixed. Then, almost a month after the trade request became public, Yzerman stepped down as general manager and head of hockey operations entirely. He's still involved as a senior advisor, handling day-to-day matters, but the Red Wings have not named a permanent replacement, and without a GM fully in place, the entire situation has essentially been frozen. So why is Larkin still in Detroit? 3 real obstacles are standing in the way. The first is money. Larkin carries a cap hit of $8.7 million. According to salary cap tracking figures, the Wild currently have just over $1 million in space. The Panthers have barely $34,000, and the Golden Knights are actually sitting more than $8.5 million over the cap ceiling. For any of those 3 teams to make this work, somebody has to move a contract out first, or Detroit has to absorb a significant salary coming back the other way. The second obstacle is talent value. Detroit and Minnesota already sat down and talked this summer, and those conversations went nowhere. The Red Wings weren't satisfied with the younger prospects Minnesota was willing to include, and they've made it known they want at least one established NHL player coming back in return, not just picks and futures. The third piece is leadership. One insider directly addressed this sticking point, saying the Red Wings are holding for legitimate NHL caliber talent in any deal, and that he doesn't see an obvious match right now. He added that if this drags into training camp, it could start affecting the mood inside the locker room. Interestingly, Larkin's actual take-home money is friendlier than his cap number suggests. Because his contract was heavily front-loaded, he's already been paid roughly $31 million of that original deal. Going forward, his real salary tops out at around $8 million a season, which is actually less than his cap hit implies. Here's where things get genuinely interesting. The numbers from the prediction markets tell a clear story. On a popular event betting platform, 75% of participants believe Larkin opens this coming season still wearing a Red Wings jersey. That's a strong majority betting against any trade happening before puck drop. But among the smaller group who do expect a trade, the numbers point almost entirely in one direction. 72% of that group believes Minnesota is where he ends up. Philadelphia is the only other team even listed on the board, and it's sitting at just 2%. What makes the Minnesota number stand out is that it's held steady even though actual trade talks between the 2 sides broke down. That tells you the crowd still views the Wild as the long-term favorite, even if the deal isn't close to happening today. One insider was asked directly where this stands now that Yzerman has stepped aside, and his read was that the situation has probably gone far enough that a trade eventually has to happen. That walking it back at this point would be difficult for everyone involved. The other shift worth mentioning is tanking. 2 months ago, when Larkin first asked out, the idea that he'd still be a Red Wing heading into training camp would have sounded far-fetched. Now it's looking like a real possibility. Here's the part of this story that a lot of people are missing. Larkin isn't the only core piece whose future depends on what happens next. Alex DeBrincat led the Red Wings in scoring this past season with 41 goals and 44 assists, both career highs for him in Detroit. He's set to become an unrestricted free agent after this coming season, and he's now eligible to sign an extension. One insider laid out exactly why this matters, saying the new general manager's vision is arguably even more important for DeBrincat than for Larkin. Even though there's less time pressure attached to his situation, DeBrincat has been remarkably durable too. He hasn't missed a single game across his 3 seasons in Detroit, and his production has climbed every year. From 67 points in his first season with the team, up to 70 points the following year, and then 85 points this past season. Reports indicate DeBrincat would be open to staying in Detroit, but only if he's paid market value. If the incoming general manager can't offer that, or can't present a credible plan for competing soon, he becomes a realistic trade candidate himself, possibly as early as the deadline. So the pressure on Detroit's front office search isn't just about resolving Larkin's situation. It's about convincing a second core player that this franchise is actually heading somewhere. Let's talk about the scenario that gets less attention: the possibility that Larkin doesn't get traded at all. One analyst who covers the team closely explained that Yzerman's departure may have slightly reopened the door for Larkin to stay, but stressed that it depends entirely on who the next general manager is and what kind of vision that person brings. His exact words were, "I would say more than there was before, but I think a lot of it still depends so much on who the new person is and what kind of vision they want to sell." But he also raised doubts about whether Detroit's roster is currently built to compete. He pointed to the team's biggest offseason swap, noting that Patrick Kane left for the Chicago Blackhawks in free agency, and Detroit replaced him with Victor Arvidsson. His blunt assessment was, "You're kind of in the same place you were." He didn't stop there either, pointing out that the competition around Detroit isn't standing still. He said, "Florida's gotten way better and healthier. Washington's gotten way better. I think New Jersey's going to be a team to be reckoned with next year." That matters because Detroit finished last season at 41 wins, 31 losses, and 10 overtime losses, missing the playoffs for a 10th consecutive year. If a new general manager wants to keep Larkin in the fold, the pitch almost certainly has to be built around getting genuinely competitive, not just staying the course. So here's where things stand. Dylan Larkin remains a Red Wing with a no-trade clause that puts him fully in control of his future. The betting markets favor him staying for now, with Minnesota still viewed as the most likely destination if a trade does eventually happen. Cap space and asset value remain real roadblocks on both sides, and the entire situation, including Alex DeBrincat's future, comes down to who Detroit hires as their next general manager and what kind of plan that person is able to sell.